Welcome back to the Lotus on track here at Spa for a combined race from Lotus Cup Europe, their final race of the season, and the penultimate round of the Lotus Cup UK. The race is being led by Gavin Kershaw. He has been and gone. That's the 2:11. The silver car of Mark Fuller in second. The white Evora here with Gregory Rask in third, and the orange Exige in fourth position with his brother John. And the battle between Gregory and John has given us really the excitement throughout this race. They've been at it tooth and nail, but they are just beginning to reel in, I think, Mark Fullerlove in second position, because there goes Fullerlove and here comes Gregory Rask. So Mark Fullerlove really isn't beginning to disappear up the road here, so it could just be that we might see the Rasses being able to claim a podium position each instead of just fighting out for that final spot on the podium. They've managed to clear this enormous train of cars. It's being backed up at the rear there by 34 James Proctor, who's had the best view of it all as Markus Nikovic begins to pick his way past some of the slower runners, climbing up through the legendary Eau Rouge corner. Drivers relishing the Spa circuit, even though it never was particularly kind to the Lotus Formula 1 team. It's certainly been kind to the Lotus Cup Europe and Lotus Cup UK drivers this weekend. Wonderful weather for today's race, and we have been treated to some superb action throughout the field. We go in car with Greg Gazechka. So, whoa, how did he hold that? On the replays, David Harvey and Laurent Fevy was trying to go past, ran out of road, ran out of traction as well. Just about gathered it all up. It's the second arms and elbows moment we've seen from Greg Gazechka this race. So nothing else, he's had a lively time. John Rass again on the tail of Gregory Rass and looking for the move into the final chicane. Gregory Rass track position though, squeezing out the Exige. I just wonder though whether those tyres on the Evora are starting to feel a little bit second-hand. It's a big car, it's a powerful car, and there's a lot of heavy stops here at Spa. We've seen over the past couple of laps that Gregory has just been a little bit sliding through some of the slower corners, but he stops very early for the hairpin at the source this time round, which means there's nothing that John Rass can particularly do about squeezing back through. They head down the hill, and the Evora just begins to move away from the little Exige. Down under the bridge and then on to the legendary Eau Rouge corner. No shortage of commitment from either Gregory or John Rass there, particularly Gregory Rass flinging the Evora in. It's Marcus Jewell and Simon Deacon continue their race-long tussle. Two of them socialise off the circuit. It's a very social paddock in the Lotus Cup UK and Lotus Cup Europe. And the conversations and bragging rights from Saturday night carried in to the racing on Sunday. At the moment it's just Marcus Jewell who's got the advantage over Simon Deacon, although not by an awful lot. Got a little bit of smoke there as they head down the straight, and it's Nigel Ayres who's in trouble in car 4. Nigel Ayres is going to pull off. Yes, there he is, running off the escape road and down the old Spa Grand Prix circuit. I think he'll be vacating that cockpit fairly quickly because the car is looking very smoky. It's now the turn of Jean-Baptiste Mersnier to try and pick his way through this production class battle. A little bit lower down the order, it's Greg Noble. He has just squeezed through as Tom Chataway and Nicholas Walker engage in battle. Chataway gaining the place. Nicholas Walker immediately looks to fight back in the orange machine. It's Chataway in the white car. In the production class, it's Steve Quick just leading it, and then Ben Hyland in the orange and white car there in second, with Ken Savage in third, but right onto the tail of Ben Hyland once more. They have lost Rob Austin from that group. Steve Quick has been a long time class leader, but I just wonder whether Ben Hyland and Ken Savage have got anything left in the locker to take to challenge Steve in the closing stages. We have only got a handful of laps remaining, so the drivers are going to look to gain the positions. Now is more or less the time they've got to do so. There's the race leader, Gavin Kershaw. Nicholas Walker gets it very wrong at Eau Rouge and goes off and into the barriers. And that's a big moment there for Nicholas Walker. We just missed the impact, but I think you can guess what happened, judging by the damage to the rear of that car. Well, I'm glad to say that he's climbing out of the cockpit and walking away, which is the most important thing. And that was a traditional Eau Rouge accident, just losing the rear as he came up the hill. That's what the tyre barriers are there for. Nicholas Walker, unfortunately out of the race, but fortunately unharmed. Very quick place to leave proceedings. And the three protagonists in the production class fight are still there, with Gavin Kershaw just closing in on their tail to lap them. It's Dan Plant in the 72 car just going through our shot there, who is heading up really the next group of production class cars, but then Greg Noble arriving at a rate of knots and running a little bit wide as he went through the bus-up chicane. That's going to give Steve Tranter and James Proctor possibly the opportunity to get onto terms with him. And going through there as well, Steve Train. So Steve Train gaining the place on Greg Noble. good to see Steve having a reasonably strong run this weekend. So again, one of these drivers has had an up and down season. Jean-Pierre Prache just closing on to the tail of Marcus Nikovic in the 76 car. Jean-Pierre Prache in the fluorescent yellow machine, you really can't miss that one on a dark night. We saw him a little bit earlier on recovering from an off-track excursion, so he has been working throughout the remainder of the race really to gain places and move up to his rightful position in the top 10. He is on course still, though he's still got a few more places to gain until he can move up to where his pace really demands that he should be in the final classification. Dan Plant just breaking away now from Steve Train, who's still got Greg Noble and James Proctor on his tail. And the next man up to lap them is going to be Steve Williams in the bright yellow Lotus 211. Steve, one of the feistiest competitors in the field. He also prepares a good number of the 211s run by the UK drivers. It makes every Lotus race weekend for Steve a very busy one indeed, but he's a very fine pilot above all else. And is well up the field in 6th position at the moment, although some way back from Jean-Baptiste Meusnier in 5th position. Philippe Loup turning through Eau Rouge. We still got the yellow flags at Eau Rouge whilst the marshals get to work recovering the car of Nicholas Walker to a place of safety. Glad to see though the safety car hasn't come out, because as we are heading towards the end of the race here, the last thing you want is the field being artificially bunched up by a safety car appearing, which we haven't had. Is the race able to continue as Steve Tranter, I think, who was just moving aside to let some of the quicker cars through. Philippe Loup, this man through, and as we are heading towards the closing stages, some of the battles we saw earlier on are just being resolved in favour of one driver or another. As Dennis van den Sarvel, who has had a very busy race, and he is still well up the field, although just outside the top 20, which with a normal size grid he might be disappointed with, but with over 50 cars taking to the start today, that still puts him solidly into the top half of the field, and therefore a very impressive result for him. As Thierry Hedouin in the yellow 71 car turns out into exterior circuits. We have all changed, possibly in the production class. It's Ben Hyland who would appear to be leading that now from Ken Savage. Just wonder whether Steve Quick has made an error, because he has slipped back slightly. Yes, he has. It is Hyland who leads the production class from Savage, as Gavin Kershaw in the bright green Evora continues to lead the race, as he really has done, all except for the first 100 metres of the race when Romy Pochevat leapt into an early lead as they went in towards La Source, but thereafter it's been all Kershaw, and we look off into the distance, and there, headlights ablaze, is Mark Fullerlove. Here is Steve Quick. Steve must have had a spin, because he has dropped really quite some way back from Ben Hyland and Ken Savage, who is leading for so long. Gregor Zechka onto the tail of Laurent Febvre here into the Source, looking to the outside. Not sure that's going to work for you, Gregor. Laurent Febvre carrying much more speed through on the apex. Instead, Gregor Zechka trying to get momentum built up down the hill on towards Eau Rouge. Is he going to be able to challenge Laurent Febvre into Eau Rouge? Not so sure about that, but possibly up the hill and on the exit. So into the corner they come now, and then can Zechka carry the momentum through? Yes, he can. He's got a lot of speed here. He has to take somewhat to the runoff area to avoid running into the rear of Laurent Febvre. That, however, takes away the momentum and the extra pace that he did have, so Laurent Febvre maintains the position momentarily, and then Zechka looks again to the slipstream on towards Les Combes. Tom Chataway just on to the tail of Glenn Sherwood. Tom maybe gaining an extra place in the closing stages of this race, with Gavin Kershaw still emphatically in the lead. Into the chicane on to complete another lap. He's just about to head past Vital Chauhun. Once again, the teams, though, on the pit wall still cheering their men on. Pit boards going out, giving the drivers all the vital information that they need, and the hurry-up signal and the fist pumps. I think we're certainly going to get some of those in this particular group of cars, in particular the battle between the brothers Rass. It's Gregory just ahead of John, who squeezes through past Steve Quick as they arrive into the bus stop chicane, and then Gregory Rass runs wide anyway, and John Rass, in the most unexpected circumstances, goes up into 3rd position. I don't think he would have quite anticipated that, but for me that validates the hypothesis that the tyres are just beginning to go away from Gregory Rass on that Evora. He really is struggling to get that car slowed down into the slow corners. We watch it in car from John Rass. We go between the two yellow machines. There's Gregory Rass not turning into the corner. John Rass says thank you very much. I'll just move across, take my apex here, go up to third and look forward to the trophy a little bit later on this afternoon. The production class still in the hands of Ben Hunt, although Ken Savage is continuing to track him, and Ken, I still think, may just have something extra to give as Greg Rass looks to challenge John Rass once more into Eau Rouge. John Rass shopping across, taking the racing line, no way through there for Gregory Rass, so instead he settles once more into the Citroën we make, looking to try and challenge up the hill and on towards Les Combes. Gavin Kershaw long gone. There's Mark Fullilove in second, who, as the Rasses have started the battle once more, has just been able to put a bit of daylight between himself and the brothers. And John Rass, though, holds on from Gregory Rass. Gregory Rass, though, had the run. He just angled on the brakes a little bit earlier than John Rass, so the Exige John Rass maintains third position, though we are really heading towards the closing stages now. So if Gregory Rass is going to reclaim that third, which he has held for much of the race, and he's running out of time to do so. Streaming through another gaggle of cars. Plenty of battles throughout the field. We've got somebody, though, very smoky. That's Markus Nikovic just coming into view there. And that could be an expiring Exige, possibly. The white smoke never forebodes good times. He pulls off onto the grass, and I think he should get out of that car very quickly, because that is progressing from white to grey smoke. And the car is progressing from Exige to a bonfire. The driver's door opens, Markus Nikovic gets out, and will be looking frantically for a fire extinguisher to begin to bring that car back under control. The yellow flag's there. We've got another car that's gone up. That's Simon Deacon, and that car is well and truly ablaze. Simon, that you could just see there to the right of the shot, was out of the car unharmed. And again, looking for a fire extinguisher. We've got these two cars going off. There's Markus Nikovic. Here comes the marshal now with the extinguisher, just as the flames begin to take hold. And this is really what we don't want to see, as into the final chicane comes the race leader, Gavin Kershaw. It's been a super drive from Gavin, and an emphatic victory. He takes the flag as the fire truck attends to Markus Nikovic. So it's the win for Gavin Kershaw in dominant fashion in the final round of the Lotus Cup Europe, penultimate round of the Lotus Cup UK. He slows to take the claim of the marshals and the crowd. Second place to Mark Fullilove, but what about third? Which of the Rasses will have held on to it, as the marshals set to work with the car of Simon Deacon as well? Such an unfortunate end to the race. Back in car with John Rass, out to the final chicane. He's going to hold on and claim third position here. It's been a great drive from John, and a very well deserved third. What's been a super race. We'll be back after the break with all the results here at Lotus on Track.